Okay, so this is my presentation on hand tools. And the first one is the open end wrench. This is just used to tighten down any bolts. Next is the box end wrench, which is also used to tighten down bolts, but this one could be more useful in situations just because of how the head is set up, how it's closed. And next is the adjustable wrench, which could be useful because you can use it on any type of bolt because you can adjust it. Next is the pipe wrench, which is like the name, it's just used on pipes. And next is the Allen wrench, which is you can use it on any screw with a hex head. And then we have diagonal pliers, so they can be used for cutting wires. And next we have the utility knife, which can really just be used to cut anything. Is a pretty sharp blade, so it can be used to cut a lot of things. And next is pincers, and this is just really to grip or hold anything into place, so it's kind of like pliers. And next is glass cutters, which obviously you can just cut glass with. And then we have bolt cutters, which you can use to cut any type of like metal wire or chains. And then we have the bow saw, which is you like pull it back and forth to cut something, but this is used with your hands. And it's kind of the same thing with the hacksaw, except you would only use one hand on one side with it. And the flat file you would use to smooth down any edges. And then the round file you could use to smooth any edges that you want kind of a curve on. And then the square file you could use if you needed to get into a slot or have it at a good angle. Okay, so next is the mechanic's hammer, and this is used just for striking down any nails. The next is the claw hammer, which is kind of a variation, but this would be especially used for nails because it's good at pulling them out of whatever you put the nails into. And next we have the mallet, which is used just to apply a lot of force on something. And so next we have sandpaper, which is kind of similar to the files in that you use it for kind of smoothing things or sanding them down to get them a little bit smaller. And then we have the Phillips screwdriver, which is the crosshead, which is used so that you have more surface area than the flathead screwdriver. Next, the flathead screwdriver is just used on screws with only a flathead hole. And then we have the hex screwdriver, which is kind of a combination of the two, so it's 6 edges, which gives it even more surface area than the Phillips screwdriver. So now we have the monkey wrench, which is also adjustable. And then we have the brace tool, which is kind of like the tool used with tapping. It's just drilling a hole into something by hand with a drill bit attached to the end of it. And then we have the clamp, which is used to hold something in place so that you can work on it without it moving at all. And then we have a crowbar, which is used just to get good leverage on something if you want to move it. And then we have the lug wrench, which is used on lug nuts on cars or any automobile. And then we have the paint roller, which is used to apply a lot of paint quickly, like in a kind of rectangular area, but a big one. And then we have the paint brush, which is used if you wanted to be more precise with where your paint was going. So next we have a socket wrench, which is used if sometimes you don't have enough space, you don't have to spin the wrench all the way back to retighten it. And then we have the tap, which is used to make holes be able to accept screws or bolts that size. And then we have the impact wrench, which is it's kind of like a hand drill, but it's just a wrench. It will very quickly put your nuts and bolts into place. And then we have the caliper, which is used to electronically measure a distance between two close things. And then we have the tape measurer, which is used just again to measure distance. And then we have a ruler, again, is just used to measure the distance between two things. And then we have a marker, which in this case we just talked about all these measurers. If you measured something out and you wanted to mark like exactly where, for example, 5 inches is, you would use a ruler to mark that down. Or not a ruler, a marker. And then heat gloves, you would use these anytime you're dealing with something that is hot or is going to get hot to protect your hands from getting burned while you're handling it. And then we have the water balance, which you place on something and the bubble in the middle will tell you if you are level or not. And the straight edge, kind of self-explanatory. It's used for a straight edge to be able to draw or just to be able to see what is exactly like 90 degrees or a straight edge. And the protractor is kind of similar to all the stuff I've been talking about with the ruler and the straight edge, but this one you can see how much of an angle something is on, as well as it being somewhat of a ruler.